What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Financial Seeds Podcast, where we believe that financial freedom is built one conversation at a time. I'm your host, JimDre Westbrook, and every week we are here to empower families to go from striving to thriving by having smart, practical money talks. On today's episode, we are talking about allowance. We want to make sure that when parents give kids money, it is on purpose and they understand the power, the responsibility of money, and how that can make them more confident, that can make them more educational, and actually promote freedom in their lives. This episode is a solo episode, but I'm not just here by myself in the studio. We have the producer, Dre, and my co-host, Bree, who you may or may not hear during the episode. So if you hear their voices, don't be afraid, don't be alarmed. It's all part of the episode. Shout out to Dre, shout out to Bree for being here, and let's get into the topic. So I do want to kick it to Bree and ask her a question about allowances. Bree, do you remember getting allowance when you were a kid? And if so, at what age did those allowances start?
Hey Dre. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I know I did get an allowance. I want to say it was probably around the age of 8 or 10 in there, and it was about $5 a week, and I thought that that was cool cuz $20 a month felt like a lot back then.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about, getting money as a child, that $5 a week, $20 a month seeming like $1,000,000, right?
Mhm.
I can remember getting my first allowance probably around that same age. And I think it also started with $5 for taking out the trash. Like I thought that that was so cool to help my dad do that and to get some money from it. And being from the Midwest, that kind of turned into shoveling snow, where it's like
Mhm.
I didn't really like it because it was really cold or whatnot, but it was something that I took pride in, which we will get into when we talk about kind of the different types of allowances that are out there that you can have. So yeah, I love this conversation that we're going to have about allowances. And for the parents, we just really want you and your family to know if you can afford to give an allowance, it's not a one-way shop. Many families do different things, and we want to just encourage you to understand that it's okay if your financial situation looks a little different, and we want to give you some guidelines on how you may be able to have an allowance in your family and teach your kids those valuable lessons. So, when it comes to the different types of allowances that you could do, here are three popular styles that you and your family can make happen. The first one is essentially the allowance where you just do not necessarily what you want to do, but it's the no strings allowance. With the no strings allowance, this allows you to, no matter what's happening in life or in the world, you give essentially that same amount of money, the same amount of time. For pros, this allows you to just kind of understand that you don't make emotional decisions with your money. I think for most of us, when we talk about money, it's an emotional topic. We're human beings, and it's just within our human nature to be emotional with our money. We care about our money. We work hard for our money. So when you make a decision with your money, it can be emotional. But when you do the no strings, it kind of takes that emotion and that behavior out of it because you're just doing the same thing no matter what. However, a con of that can be you just might feel that the money out there is essentially free money, right? It's this type of money that doesn't have an intention or purpose behind it. And that could be a little confusing when you're trying to teach your kids, quote unquote, the right way or a proper and healthy way to manage their finances. Another way could be is simply the chore based way to administer your allowance. As Bree and I were talking about a little earlier, a lot of us get paid our allowance that way. Like I said, I remember doing taking out the trash every Wednesday, making sure it's out in the front of our house. I can't say that I went 100% or batted 1,000 on that because I know there's been times where my dad had to kind of come behind me and make sure that that happened. But I knew that I would get paid because I was doing a chore, and it kind of did teach me some work ethic. I think when you're paid for that, it teaches you how to, show up for work essentially on time, take care of business, and get paid. I do feel a con of that can be, what if there are no more chores, right? Like there have been time and time where you might have cleaned the house, you might have washed the dishes, you might have swept the floor, you washed the clothes, you did everything that you could think of, and there's just no more money to go around. Or you could be, well, I have enough money. I have enough money to get that new game. I have enough money to get those new J's. So I don't want to work anymore. So again,
Right.
kind of that tension that you and your family will have to work out to decide which method will be best for you. Lastly, it's kind of a hybrid of the two, which I believe is my personal favorite and one that may be the healthiest for you and your family, where you get paid for the things that you need to do. Like they are the every single week, this is your job, these are your chores, but it leaves you room for some extra work. It leaves you room to make some extra money. So, this is where I feel that parents can give that teaching lesson that we talked about at the top of this episode, where responsibility also meets opportunity. And I think that's a great way for parents to have their kids learn and manage money where there are things that you just have to get done that you're responsible for, AKA your chores, but then it gives you this opportunity to teach them how to do extra things that might improve their lifestyle and their finances. So I remember my dad and my mom would do things like that where I could earn some extra money on top of that allowance, and I felt good. Like
Yeah.
I was empowered. It felt really, really good to just be able to, make a little extra, right?
Yeah, me too. My parents used a similar one where that $5 was pretty much for cleaning the bathroom, which looking back, that was easy because it was my bathroom, so, I didn't make a big mess, and after that, I was done, but every once in a while, I was like, "I need to make some extra money." So, I would go to my parents and they'd be like, "Okay, yeah, well, we'll give you an extra $5 if you help your mom clean the kitchen or if you run some errands with your dad and help him do this." So I think that that is really the good way to go because it does kind of give you that mindset of like, okay, I have to do this, but if I want some extra, I got to put in extra work and there's that opportunity there too. So,
Yes, I love it. I love it. Now, as a parent, maybe you've been listening, and say you're the new parent and you have never given allowance yet. How do you do it? Like, how much should you give? I think that's the next question that a lot of newer parents would say, I've never done this. I know what I got back in the day, but you have inflation, things are different. How much money do I give? How do we work this thing called allowances? And I think some of the things that you can think of in doing that is making it an age based formula. This is something that's been around for ages, and this is essentially matching up how old you are and giving that per week. So, for example, if you are a 10-year-old and you are looking to get allowance for the first time, you'd get $10 a week and so on and so forth. So, I think that that could be a nice, easy way for, let's say, a new parent who hasn't given allowance first before, and you just want to make sure that you do it that way. There's also different ways called split allowances. With the split allowances, this kind of puts those money into different buckets. So it teaches your children on how to save, on how to spend, on how to give. And as you grow older, it's very similar to what we call the 50-30-20 rule, which has also been around forever, where 50% of your income goes to your needs, 30% of your income goes to your wants, and then 20% of your income goes to saving. So I think that that's a really cool tool of seeing how kids can, essentially name their money. It's just not going in their piggy bank for just general funds, if you will. If they're actually saving for something, it goes there. If they're spending it, it also goes there. But if they want to give it away, right? We're talking about maybe to charity, maybe to donating to help someone in a less fortunate, kind of goes back to that character and that confidence building that we were talking about in the beginning. That could be a nice way to show families on how to split their money when it comes to allowances. And whatever you do, you want to keep this thing consistent. When it comes to your finances, if you're able to have some consistency, it helps. When we talk about planting those financial seeds, we want to continue to plant those seeds so they grow into something large. They grow into something plentiful like a tree, but it starts with one seed. So when you are talking about those allowances, we want to make sure if you are able to, that it happens essentially on the same day, right? If you get paid on the 1st and the 15th every month, you can kind of administer your allowances around that same time frame. 1st and 15th, maybe the 3rd and the 17th, whatever it looks like, you want to be consistent as far as the same day and also the same method. So if you're someone where you give your kids, let's say, an envelope, you want to make sure it is that same envelope every single time because that actually gives them something to look forward to. I knew that when I was growing up, I got an envelope. My dad was real old school. He would give envelopes, and I liked that because I already knew before I even touched the money, I was
Yep.
getting the envelope and I knew what was in that. Maybe it's a jar for you, right? Where it's something that a kid can actually see because kids are people, like most people. If you can see it, you can manage it. So we want to make sure that, again, same day, same method, and that it is attainable, that it's tangible, that your kids can see it, they can touch it, they can smell it, and understand that that something in the envelope or the glass jar is my allowance, and I have the responsibility and the ability to do what I want to financially. That's super important.
The Financial Seeds podcast is powered by Silver State Schools Credit Union. At Silver State Schools Credit Union, our focus is to provide excellent member service and financial solutions for life. Now is the perfect time to lock in lower payments and more savings with SSSCU's new even lower vehicle loan rates, now starting at just 4.99% annual percentage rate. That's 4.99% APR, available for both purchases and refinancing. Members can drive more and pay less with SSSCU's new lower rate of 4.99% APR. Visit silverstatecu.com/drive to learn more and experience why Silver State Schools Credit Union is banking done better. Silver State Schools Credit Union finances up to 100% of MSRP for new vehicles or the Kelley Blue Book retail value for used vehicles. Additional terms and conditions to qualify. May not be combined with other offers. Rates, terms, and conditions are subject to change without notice. Must be a member to apply. Visit silverstatecu.com for more details.
So, as we round out this episode, we want to just give a few financial gems, aka seeds, to you parents who are thinking about allowance. Maybe you've been kind of doing this thing and you want to switch it up and do it differently. We want to give you a few tips. So, when it comes to every dollar, the money that you are giving to your kids, we want to view it as this chance to build something. We want you to always kind of be in teaching mode, right? So it does teach self control, it teaches confidence, and it teaches value based decision making. Yeah, they may seem like they're your kids and they're very young and they're not learning everything that you're saying. They're like sponges. So you best believe they are taking it in, and it may not mature until another 5, 10, or 20 years. But we want you to continue to have that faith, have that confidence that when you are giving that allowance, we really want to hone into this part. It's not just about saying no to spending, which no is a superpower when it comes to our finances, but more about learning to say yes to our priorities. And I know that that may be a big message for kids to get, but we want to teach them priorities. And everything about allowance can do that. Yes, it will get them that game that they've been begging for months. Yes, it may get them again shoes, clothes, and all of the things so that they can feel confident when they're hanging out with their friends. But we want them to learn priorities, and financial priorities can help by giving them allowance and allowing them the opportunity to do the things financially that they want to do within your parental guidance. So, again, you may be a rookie at this, or maybe you are an all pro and you know all of this information. We always want to do at the Financial Seeds podcast is be a resource, be that financial resource, and maybe give you that confidence to finally give your kids an allowance, even if it is the 10-year-old who gets the $10. Maybe it's $5 for your financial situation. We still encourage you to do that as you build your finances, as you grow your finances and manage them within your family. So, here are some final takeaways that we want to give you before we close out this episode. The first being, we just want you to start small and start early. When it comes to building something special, I know when you start small, it may not feel, good, right? It may not feel like you're really doing something to build this, let's just say, mansion, right? But when you lay that first brick is part of the actual mansion, right? We want you to understand that when it comes to allowance, if you cannot afford to do what is inside your heart, that you do what you can. And even if it's $1 a week, that $1 a week within the within a week can turn into four within a month and continue to multiply. As your financial situation grows, so will that allowance grow. So we want you to give yourself grace and understand that small beginnings can turn into large winnings. The second thing we want you to understand is it's okay to let your kids make financial mistakes within reason. We feel it's perfectly fine to allow them to do that, given that you're right there with them, because this thing will not look perfect. And we want them to understand that if they made a financial mistake, let's say they didn't catch on to the sale that was promoted, but you knew the sale was there and they buy it for full price, and you're able to return that and give them that financial education and that message. Every time that you shop is an opportunity for you to educate them on how to become a smarter shopper. So at the grocery store, when you do your thing on Amazon, wherever you go, you can give them those financial gems and those financial seeds because they're not going to know what to do. They've never done this on their own. So they don't have to go to college and shop for themselves for the very first time. They can go grocery shopping with you weekly. That is a tool and a time where they can learn and make those mistakes. So as they have their family and they're on their own, they don't have to suffer those same type of mistakes. And lastly, as I said, this thing will never look perfect. We are not chasing perfection, we're chasing progression. We want us to get better financially every single day, myself included. So as you're on this financial journey, we want you to make wiser choices every day, whether that's your allowances, your spending, your saving, debt management, credit scores. We want you to make those financial choices better and better each day. Again, give yourself some grace and understand that this is more about progressing and going somewhere and creating something special day by day. So now we're at the end of our episode. I hope you've enjoyed the content of which we talked about how families can give their kids allowances on purpose, where it's all about them gaining confidence, them gaining wisdom, and them understanding the power and responsibility of money and making choices right now for their future. I appreciate our producer, Dre, for always being here, as well as my co-host, Bree. I really love what we are doing here with the Financial Seeds podcast. If this is your very first time being here, please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube page and all our streaming platforms. If you're on social media, we would love for you to follow us on our social media pages. And we would love for you to share this with at least 10 people that you know and continue to spread the gift of the Financial Seeds podcast. Until next time, keep planting those seeds. My name is JimDre, and we'll see you guys next week.
The Financial Seeds podcast is powered by Silver State Schools Credit Union. Hosted by JimDre Westbrook, co-hosted by Brianna Chavez, produced by Leandre Fox, and created in the Scott A. R. Kills production studio. The Financial Seeds podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as financial, legal, or tax advice. All opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Silver State Schools Credit Union. Listeners should consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to their individual situation.